National Service Bill is a violation of freedom.
National Service Bill 2013-2014 was presented to Parliament on the 24th of June 2013, but since this was the first reading, there was no debate regarding the bill. However, on the 28th of February 2014, the bill is expected to have its second reading, in which it will be debated. This bill aims to make national service compulsory for 18 to 26-year-olds.
Yo, what's going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of Out the Box with myself, Jago. And tonight I have got...
How we doing, people? Shout out to the panel. We're back again with another great episode, and I hope you guys are going to enjoy this. Make sure you leave a comment down below and let us know what you're thinking of this episode.
Yo, people, back again. Tell a friend. Manlike. Here to talk some business. Let's do this, man.
Jeez. Yes. So, back with our 5th episode, guys. Going on nicely. This episode, we're looking at freedom of movement. Freedom of movement has been quite a big topic because of the COVID-19, although it's been kind of covered over with the COVID-19.
Yeah.
So, first of all, what we're going to do is have a look at this article from the Human Rights website to look at the actual definition of what we're looking at tonight.
Okay.
So, definitions of right of freedom of movement. Everyone lawfully within the territory of the state shall, within that territory, have the right to liberty of movement and freedom to choose his residence. Everyone shall be free to leave any country, including his own. The above mentioned rights shall not be subject to any restrictions except those provided by law, are necessary to protect national security, public order, public health, or morals of the right of freedom of others, and consistent with the right of recognition of the present covenant. And no one should be arbitrarily deprived of the right to enter his own country. That one I never actually knew.
Because the thing about it is, obviously, I do believe that at some point is what's her name again? Shamima Begum.
Oh yeah. That's a big case.
They refused her to come back to the country, innit?
Yeah.
I'm sure they tried to use something like this at one point in court.
I wouldn't be surprised, because this is the thing that would have got her back into the country.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I know there's other things, there's other variables as well. I'm just thinking, like, for the movement side of things.
Yeah. Interesting. Reading it now, I was thinking myself, like, yeah, it must have been a big thing in that case. So the second article, published 2013 by a freelance writer and blogger. National Service Bill is a violation of freedom.
So it says the National Service Bill 2013-2014 was presented to Parliament on the 24th of June 2013, but since this was the first reading, there was no debate regarding the bill. However, on the 28th of February 2014, the bill is expected to have its second reading, in which it will be debated. This bill aims to make national service compulsory for 18 to 26-year-olds. It is conscription and nothing less. You can read the bill and all the details of its proposals here, and and obviously you can click on that word, and it's a link that will take you to that. As it says, exempt individuals are those with severe mental or physical disability, whereas non-exempt individuals who do not serve 1 year of national service before the age of 26 shall be guilty of an offence. So the majority of the younger generation will be forced into it under threat of criminal penalty. This would include myself, which I'm not too happy about. That's interesting. The fact that the person writing this would fall over this.
Also, 2013, that would have been me. Because I would have fitted in this age gap as well. So Yeah, this is
Wow.
the
That's mad.
yeah,
And then the thing about it is, obviously, if you don't do that, that restricts your movement virtually completely, because obviously your name are going to be on databases and things like that.
I want to
If you're
know
trying to
how
get to
I
certain
want to know
places,
how I want to know how severe the punishment would be, because it says an offence. I want
so
to know
all
how.
right, so yeah, so under threat of criminal penalty, this would include myself, which I am not too happy about. Some proponents of the bill point to how beneficial a year of national service can be to young people. For example, many useful skills can be attained. The year's national service will include the following elements: educational assistance, basic levels of physical fitness, personal discipline, smart appearance, self-respect, and respect for others, financial budgeting, nutrition, timekeeping tolerance towards others, tolerance towards others, treating elderly and disabled people with dignity and respect, and instruction of basic aspects of the law in relation to the most common offences involving young people. So the bill aims to mould young people into healthy, responsible, moral, and intelligent citizens. So what's so wrong with that? Well, the first criticism of these proposals lies in their efficiency. Yeah, like if an 18-year-old comes out of school and is forced to spend the year doing something they don't want to do, I can't imagine how much effort they'll put into the whole thing. Developing virtuous traits such as self-respect and respect for others, depending on making conscious and voluntary choices. Here's the thing though, like, you're not making a voluntary choice, you're forced to do that. You know what I mean?
I can comment on this. I've literally done that at 16 and at 18 years old, and I hated the two things that I had to do, and I didn't use them skills ever again in my life. It was just a situation I was kind of like forced into doing, and I just did it for the sake of just bypassing the time. That's taken away someone's freedom, of your own freedom, and that's undermining like your upbringing, saying about self-respect and things like that. Well, you're not taught these things as a child. I don't know everybody's upbringing, but I was taught like self-respect as a child. And like, what was the other one they said about basic
respect for others?
No, there was
And
something else.
and to be able to treat people with
basically
basic
not
morals and
committing
dignity.
crimes or something.
Yeah.
There was some, yeah. So what's that trying to say? Is that trying to paint that everybody that's in that age bracket at that particular moment in time was committing crimes or
ruffian criminals?
Yeah, but a lot of these things that they're saying, like I've worked on a Marine camp. That's as much as I can say.
Yeah.
And I've met some really nice people, but I've also met people who have the same values and have never worked on them bases and in them sort of situations. So I don't think doing a year in military service, unless you're someone who wants to do something, as I like the motto I live by in life is you'll only do the best at something that you really want to do. If you don't want to do something, you're not really going to put no effort into it. So if you're forced to do a year of military service, what's that really going to do? You're just going to come out.
I think the point is, like, even if you don't put in the effort, when you go into the military, you haven't got a choice. You'll get banged.
I hear that.
Yeah.
I hear that. Like, and you get forced to do it, but then how's it going to make you feel towards them after when you come out? Like,
but I mean,
and obviously, to me, what they're saying when it comes to be under criminal penalty, that's only telling me that you're going to jail. They're going to put you in prison, just like they do in America. This is America. To me, this is an American thing. Like American has conscription in their country, in it. And there's certain like China and that they have to do national service as well. You know what I mean, and things like that. You know what I mean? We don't have to do that over here, but I think that's something they've been wanting to do for a long ass time. You know what I mean? And again, going back to the freedom movement thing, if you don't do that or you choose, I'm not going to show up for it, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. As you said, they're going to be 16-year-olds with mad mentalities, man. You know what I mean? Some have aggressive mentalities, some will be submissive, some will just be timid and submissive and that. And all you got to do is scream at them and they'll just cower. You know what I mean? Like, you got people that want to fight you for screaming at them. You know what I mean? So like at the age of 16, I don't know, mate. I don't know. But then again, if they choose not to do that, that automatically restricts the way they move.
So the next article, we'll just go through this one pretty quickly, to be fair. It's quite a obvious one. Since the pandemic, we have had a lot of restrictions on a lot of different things. Freedom of movement.
And travel was one of them. Yeah. Travel was hit hard.
Mad hard.
Hard.
Right. GMG, you want to take point?
Okay, so what happens to freedom of movement during a pandemic? Restrictions are particularly problematic for those who need to move in order to find safety, but those whose elementary freedom to move have been curtailed long before COVID-19's outbreak. So the several consequences of COVID-19's pandemic dominates headlines around the globe and have drawn the public's attention unlike any other issues or events. All over the world, socialists struggle to respond and adapt to the rapidly changing scenarios and levels of threats. Emergency measures have come to disrupt everyday life. International travel has largely been suspended and many states' borders have been closed. I know that for a while as well. What was the system that they were doing throughout COVID, where it was like an amber, reds, and green, like country?
Traffic, like the traffic light system.
Yeah.
And then there was also the. I haven't obviously travelled and I've not left the UK, but people have told me that apparently when they've left the UK, they've had to come back and go into like a quarantine hotel for X amount of days.
Like 10 days.
Don't they have to pay for that as well?
They have to pay for all of that.
A disgusting meal.
And they have to pay for their test as well.
Yeah.
And at the time, the tests were like £150.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Well, anyway, that's what someone told me. Someone told me that because they come off holiday, they were like, I had to pay £150 for a test. I was like, oh my lord. That was crazy.
Imagine if you go on a cheap holiday and you end up spending more money like on the actual testing situation and everything coming back.
Yeah, man.
Anyways, the state leaders liken the fight against the virus in engaging in warfare, although it is clear that the parallel is misleading and those involved in the war are not soldiers but simply citizens. The situation is grim and it would be a serious mistake to underestimate the obvious danger of the infection, loss of life, the collapse of health services and the economy. Nonetheless, there is a need to stress that this phase of uncertainty entails all the risk of normalizing exceptional policies that restrict freedoms and rights in the name of crisis and public safety and are not in the short term. So what are we thinking on that, guys?
That's mad, isn't it? Like, I just feel like that, again, it's just like using COVID as an excuse to be able to make a restriction and move it around as and how they want, like a lava lamp.
That you think they were waiting for something like
a lava lamp that you can manipulate if you want.
Do you think they were waiting for something like this so they could, like with COVID, so they could just like slap something like this in the public's face?
Not waiting, fam. Not waiting.
Not waiting.
Planning and plotting.
They knew.
Again, there is thoughts from people in that, you know what I mean, that it was made so this situation could happen.
Yeah, of course. So there's so much benefits for them.
Well, there was accounts of COVID 20 years before, like we had the whole lockdown of the country and whatnot, but that's a whole other can of worms. All of the civic liberties which may come into the mind when we hear the words freedom, philosophers Hannah Arendt once wrote, freedom of movement is historically the oldest and the most elementary. However, in times of pandemic, human movements turn increasingly into a problem. The elementary freedom to move is said to be curtailed particularly for the elderly and the others in high-risk groups. Self-confliction appears key. Inessential movements and contact with others are to be avoided. In China, Italy, and elsewhere, hard measures have been introduced, and their violations can entail several penalties. Movements from A to B need state authorization, and unsanctioned movements can be punished. There are good reasons for that, no doubt. Nonetheless, there is a need to take stock of the wider implications of our current pre-deceit. I can't read that word, but that when they blast, like at one point with China, I remember seeing stuff on the news of the town literally bare because they had just come out and forced everybody inside.
China was a mad.
Yeah, China was a loopy one, man. That was a movie. That was
But prior to all that, anyway, I've seen enough like Asian and Oriental people like walking around with masks anyway.
Yeah.
So that was something that they were kind of practicing for a long time, just as a general well-being sort of thing.
Well, they think about it like this. They've technically been doing the face mask thing ever since 2002.
Yeah, so I mean, I've seen it for years.
Because these are things. SARS's cousin, like COVID's cousin, SARS, was a massive outbreak in 2002. And if you want people, you know what I mean, go check that out. Like, go check that stuff out. There's some stuff that's quite relevant now still. You know what I mean? So if you want, go check that out. You know what I mean? Just put in the SARS outbreak 2002 and everything will pop up. But yeah, like ever since then, obviously because of the symptoms, they started using face masks and then they technically never stopped using them.
Yeah.
So, like, you know what I mean? And yeah, their movement was severely restricted. Like, people were getting mad penalties if they were doing unsanctioned stuff. So especially in a country like China that has the rules that they have.
So, like, what severity? Will like people just go to jail and stuff?
Oh, mate, like, I do believe that it can become, like, quite totalitarian, like, quite draconian in like, quite Darwinish in China. You know what I mean? Survival of the fittest. People that follow rules might live. People that don't will die, sort of thing. Like it's mad like that. Like it's like a bit of a communist country, isn't it? Like
yeah.
So yeah, man, that's nuts. That's nuts. And I'm sure other countries that are like that will take suit. EU not worth having without free movement, says 74% of Europeans in an Oxford survey. So some 3/4 of Europeans say the European Union will not be worth having if without freedom of movement, according to the latest highly respected opinions poll for the Oxford University's Europe Stories research project led by Professor Timothy Garton Ash. But the survey found strong support for the European Parliament, with 4 out of 5 supporting a supranational representative body. So the project's latest poll in 27 EU member states, plus the UK, was conducted in December 2020. It reveals that most Europeans energetically support free movement. The survey shows the internationalist outlook of Europeans, says research team member Elida McFarlane. People were asked what they personally had gained from membership of the EU, and overwhelmingly they said freedom of movement. This was shown across the EU and across different types of people, although support was particularly strong among graduates. The survey shows that I've just read that bit there. So that was by obviously Elida McFarlane, who is the team member. The finding reflects the strong support for freedom of movement found in previous polls, including a 2018 Eurobarometer poll, which showed 4 in 5 Europeans to be supportive of free movement in the EU. However, according to the research team's new report, to better understand the importance of freedom of movement to our surveyed individuals, we asked the extent to which respondents agreed with the statement. If it did not offer freedom to travel, work, study, and live in other EU member states, the European Union would not be worth having. What are we thinking about that so far?
Well,
I think with the UK, we're quite a multicultural place, and with it being the EU, that would help a lot of people, obviously, who are here and have built the infrastructure of this country to be very strong. So I don't really see it to be a bad thing. Like, obviously, it doesn't apply to me because, you know, I'm not from a country within the EU. Well, I'm from the UK, but my heritage isn't from countries within the EU. But I know a lot of people that this could essentially help. What do you think? Yeah, 100%, man.
Okay.
Right. I mean, you know, you would have thought this anyway because it's always been quite freely to travel throughout Europe, so people are used to the idea.
One of the things we've got to remember here is while certain prime ministers have been in power, there's been a lot of countries that have not liked the way we've done things. You know what I mean? So when it comes to being beneficial with these countries. A lot of these countries are going to be like, don't you remember what you did? Like, I think not, mate. You know what I mean? Because there has been quite a few countries that don't want to work with the UK. You know what I mean? Hence why,
and rightfully so, because of the things that they've done. But then
the things they've chosen to do, the country they've kind of blindsided. You know what I mean? All sorts.
But generally,
and then also it's like that comes back to the age-old argument of like, my granddad did something to your granddad.
No, I hear that. It is technically playground talk, isn't it? Like the way it's it, like, oh, you done this, I want to tell my mum. Or you done this, I want to tell my mum. Like I do understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying, like, in the long term, when it comes to having deals with these people, so we can remember we're at the EU, so we need to make deals with other countries. And some of these countries are not gonna want to make deals with us.
No.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
They're not going to want to work with us so we can have free movement in their country. You know what I mean? They're not going to want to work with us like that. And speaking on that, that was actually a very good segue because we're on to this. Yeah. Take that, Brussels. Boris told to join Canada, Australia, and New Zealand to form a 2.5 trillion superpower.
And you didn't hear that wrong. Trillion.
Yeah, trillion. Yeah, like, so Britain could form a special alliance with Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, all predominantly English-speaking nations with historic links to the UK under a radical proposal. So, and this would actually go up again quickly, go back up to the topic again quickly. As we can see, people, you know what I mean? This was written February this year. Mm-hmm. Like, it said something like that, so but I know it's done, it was this year. There we go, 10th of Feb 2021. 10th of Feb, yeah. Right, it says the plan, known by the acronym CANZUK, would see the four countries agree to free trade, reciprocal migration, and foreign policy cooperation. This would allow citizens of the four CANZUK nations to move freely between each other, provided they don't have a serious criminal record. What are we saying about that?
That's bang, that's wicked, that's excellent. Yeah, me.
You know what I mean? So to be able to have free movement and travel freely between Canada, Australia, and New Zealand.
And like I said, it's got a historical link as well, where they're all British colonies, isn't they?
Yeah.
And all English-speaking countries as well, you know. So I think it'd be easy to like merge the infrastructures together.
Yeah, I hear that. So, CANZUK International, which advocates for the scheme, was founded by Toronto-based James Skinner in 2015. Explaining the policy to expressco.uk, he did say the vision for it is really founded on the principle of these four countries working together as sovereign, independent nations for the betterment of their economies and opportunities for their citizens. The way we promote that is through three objectives. The first would be reciprocal migration, whereby citizens of these countries could freely live and work in the other countries, minus a few stipulations and requirements, i.e. criminal record. Then free trade between these countries would maximize trading potential while opening up trade to markets worth, in brackets, about $3.5 trillion, which equates to 2.5 trillion pounds. Like, so the third aspect would be foreign policy cooperation. So acting as sovereign nations, could improve on the relations we already have.
Yeah.
A poll of 13,600 people in 2018 for CANZUK International found overwhelming support for free movement in all four nations. The policy was backed by 82% of New Zealanders, 76% of Canadians, 73% of Australians, and 68% of Britons. Canada's main opposition, the Conservative Party of Canada, has adopted support for CANZUK as one of its official positions. And that's the opposition for it.
Yeah, mate. Okay.
The rationale behind CANZUK is that all four nations have advanced economies, shared culture, and a heavily interwoven history. However, Mr. Skinner emphasized the proposal is very different from the European Union. He commented, could we go up a little bit?
Sorry.
He commented, that's it. It would very much be completely different to what the EU structure is. So, for example, where the EU has gone down the routes of having a European Parliament, an EU Commission, having a centralized currency and a centralized court system, Kanzuk would be nothing of the sort, nor would we ever advocate for that to be the case.
I like that talk. I love that talk, mate.
So what we've always advocated is these countries would work as sovereign independent counties on the international stage, working together for initiatives like reciprocal migration, trade, and foreign policy. The Kanzuk proposal draws heavily from the existing relationship between Australia and New Zealand, which incorporates the Trans-Tasman Travel Agreement. This allows reciprocal migration between the two countries for those with no serious criminal record, terrorist links, or severe infectious diseases. For foreign policy, Kanzuk supporters propose the four nations cooperate, potentially with the UK, using its permanent UN Security Council seat to defend the interests of Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Mr. Skinner noted, we are seeing the rise of authoritarian governments who have a lot of negative sentiment towards the West. We're talking the Chinese Community Party, factions within Iran, North Korea. It is always good to strengthen the Liberal Democratic Alliance alongside the United States and even the European Union.
Boom. So, I think this is sick. I really hope that happens, man.
I don't think there's a downside to it, really.
So here's the thing. I don't really see a major downside to it either. Yeah.
It's a stronger
but
economy.
I believe there will be major opposition from the EU trying to say that it's a copycat.
Oh.
Why does it matter?
Not that it's a copycat, but it's trying to go again. You know, like every company has competition, right?
Yeah.
And there'll always be one particular company that is harder competition to beat than others.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just truly believe the EU might see that as their main competition. Won't like it and try, and that's what you're going to see, maybe smear campaigns and all sorts.
Yeah.
Just like you do when you see
we still have to apply to EU regulations, so they could just put some new
at the moment, yeah. But when we don't have to, what then?
Thanks for coming back and watching another episode of us Out of the Box. Freedom of movement is very important, so make sure you do due diligence as usual.
Don't know.
Do your own research, guys.
Yep.
We appreciate you tuning in today. Leave a like in the comment section down below if you've enjoyed watching this video. Then obviously subscribe and turn on post notifications so that you're informed each and every single time that we come back with a brand new podcast. This has been Out of the Box, and we are the team.
Don't know. Big red button, big bell. Press that. Go tell a friend, share, comment, all that good stuff. Out.